Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS. Continuing on with college football week one. Got one of the best games on the board here. Notre Dame, Texas A&M at Kyle Field. Let's go.
Welcome to the SWUS. The SWUS. SWUS. Hey, get the SWUS.
All right, like I said, Irish are on the road here. Texas A&M laying a full 3 points at home. Looks like you can get a juiced 2.5 still, but for the most part, it's 3 across the board. Total sitting at 47. Let's take a quick look at the spreadsheet, and according to the model, we got to lean on Notre Dame, 29.2 to 21.5. But again, as I keep saying, these models, they're built with last year's metrics, so we should pretty much disregard them till week 3 or 4. So let's go ahead and get into this one. We got some coaching changes here. Mike Denbrock is now coaching the offense for Notre Dame because Parker took the Troy head coaching job. They bring in Denbrock, but I mean, we all know how LSU's offense looked under his tutelage last year. So I'd say that's a pretty good hire. They had the best offense in college football last year. So Denbrock is going to be coaching the Notre Dame offense. And on the Texas A&M side, we have an entirely new coaching staff. As I'm sure you've heard, Mike Elko comes in from Duke, brings his DC with them. Offense coordinator Colin Klein comes from Kansas State, who also had a successful offense last year, top 25 rushing attack. So I'd say these are solid hires. I mean, personally, I'm not the type of person that criticizes hires very often. I mean, these athletic departments know a lot more than I do about hiring football coaches, so I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, what a shitty hire. I don't really say things like that. But these look to be good fits here. Now, you might look at Notre Dame's offensive metrics from last year and say, Kyle, how could it get any better? I mean, this is an elite offense last year, and you wouldn't be wrong by saying that. I mean, Notre Dame, 9th in yards per play, 8th in success rate, 7th in PPA, top 25 rushing attack, and a top 25 passing attack. Notre Dame's offense was great last year. Here's the thing. They lost everybody. Sam Hartman, gone. Austin Estime, he's on the Denver Broncos. Dude had over 1,300 yards rushing and 18 touchdowns. He was the workhorse of this offense. And the most important part, the offensive line, pretty much the backbone of Notre Dame's offense every single year, it got gutted. The 3 best pieces of Notre Dame's offensive line are gone. Obviously, Joe Alt went early as hell in the NFL draft. They also had another offensive lineman drafted in the second round of the NFL draft. And the third offensive lineman they lost, he was all independent last year. So you can make an argument that Notre Dame lost their 3 best offensive linemen, and they brought in a left tackle, a 5-star, I think he's a 5-star, that they really like, huge, highly touted prospect. He's hurt. He's out for the season. So this Notre Dame offense, usually a unit you can hang your hat on. Notre Dame always has a good offensive line. I have questions about it, especially in week 1. Now, bringing in an athletic quarterback like Riley Leonard could definitely help with that for sure. I mean, if you've watched Duke football over the last 2 years, you know this dude is very talented using his legs. But here's the thing about Riley Leonard, and before I say this, I'm not a Riley Leonard hater or anything. This is just something I noticed. When did Riley Leonard burst onto the scene? 2022, right? He had a monster 2022 season. Everyone was talking about him. Here's the Duke schedule from 2022. I gotta ask, what defenses did Riley Leonard see here? What is the best defense on Duke's schedule in 2022? You might say, hey, at Miami. That was the year Miami was 5-7 and missed out on a bowl game. You might say, hey, at Northwestern's tough. Pretty sure Northwestern was 1-11 that season. So I'm looking at this. What is the best defense that Riley Leonard saw in his breakout year? He didn't see anybody. He saw all garbage defenses that year. I mean, at Pitt, okay, that could be tough depending on the year. I mean, where are the good defenses? Where are the tough defenses that Riley Leonard saw in 2022 when he burst onto the scene? It's a really easy schedule. Now let's take a look at Riley Leonard's opponents last season. At Louisville, top 15 defense, top 20 maybe. At Florida State, one of the best defenses in the country. Notre Dame, one of the best defenses in the country. Clemson, one of the best defenses in the country. So last year, he started actually seeing some good defenses. Want to know what his numbers were in those 4 games? 45.5% completions, 124.8 passing yards per game, 1 touchdown to 3 picks. Now, to be fair, they won that Clemson game, and Riley Leonard was good in that game. He went off with his legs. But as far as a passer, every single time Riley Leonard saw a good defense, he was terrible. I mean, these are terrible numbers. He's on the road at Texas A&M here. I mean, that's one of the toughest places for a quarterback to go and throw the ball every single year. They always have a top 3, top 5 pass rush. Here are their numbers from last year. Definitely a top 25 defense. Look at their defensive line numbers. It's a top 25 defensive line against the run and the pass, 4th in the country in sack rate. I mean, this isn't a one-off either. I mean, Texas A&M is like this every single year. They're always sending edge rushers to the NFL. It feels like every single year. And this upcoming season is no different. They're returning an all-SEC edge rusher. They also bring in a starting edge rusher from Wisconsin. And the dude who led the Big Ten in sacks last year from Purdue, he's now at Texas A&M. So they have 3 edge rushers that might be playing in the NFL, 2 of them almost definitely. This season's going to be no different than any other year for Texas A&M's defensive front. This might be the best pass rush in the country. Now, again, I want to reiterate, I'm not hating on Riley Leonard here. I'm not hating on Notre Dame. In fact, I think a lot of the questions we're asking right now will be sorted out by the second half of the season. But as far as the opener, on the road at Texas A&M, with some question marks on the offensive line, you lost your superstar running back, new quarterback in a new system, a guy that has repeatedly shown us he struggles when he sees elite defenses. I don't know how you don't love the matchup here for Texas A&M's defensive front. I think it's a nightmare spot for Riley Leonard. But now we get to the other side, Texas A&M's offense, and if you're a Notre Dame fan, this is where things start getting positive for you. So Texas A&M's offense, tough to get a read on because Connor Weigert went down with an injury. Max Johnson ended up playing most of the season. Still, they had nice-looking passing numbers. Rushing numbers were definitely down. They could not replace Devin Achane last year. I mean, if you might know him from the Miami Dolphins if you don't follow college football. He was a monster here a couple of years back. Struggled to replace him last year. But I really think A&M takes a huge step forward in that department. Their top 3 RBs from last year return. The 3 guys combined for over 1,400 yards rushing. So no question, more experience. Those RBs, we should see more production out of the running back position. And as far as the offensive line, really like the spot they're in there as well. 3 starters back on the offensive line, and the 2 transfers they brought in to start in the other 2 spots, they were both starters last year. So essentially bringing back 5 starters. Now 2 of them have never played in this system, but essentially bringing back 5 guys that started in the FBS last year. So the offensive line should take a step forward as well. But the question is, how big of a step forward are they going to take, especially in week 1? Because they're up against Notre Dame. And look, we can poke holes in the Notre Dame offense in this week 1 matchup. Tough to poke holes in their defense. I mean, this is one of the best defenses in the country. Last year, the defense is 5th in overall yards per play allowed, 4th in defensive success rate, 3rd in defensive PPA. Look at their defensive line numbers. This is a top 15 unit against the run, maybe a top 10. Their pass rush numbers are pretty solid as well. And that's actually something Texas A&M struggled with last year. Their offensive line struggled in pass protection, so that could be key. I mean, they do bring back a bunch of starters, so I expect A&M to be a little better, but it's Notre Dame. They're coming for the quarterback. So the question's going to be, do you believe in Connor Weigman or not? Personally, I think this kid's really good. I think he's the best quarterback in the FBS that isn't being talked about on that level. Obviously, you got the guys on top projected to be first-round picks. I think this kid should be in that discussion, and he's not because he got hurt. So I think despite Notre Dame being elite defense, they have a great secondary too. I think this kid can still make plays. Keep in mind, he plays in the SEC. It's not like seeing an elite defense like Notre Dame is going to catch Connor Weigman off guard. I mean, he plays in the SEC. He's used to it. So even though Notre Dame's defense is elite, I still expect this kid to make some plays down the field. Texas A&M also brought in a couple real nice transfers at wide receiver as well. So as you may have guessed from this video, I did bet Texas A&M. I got it at 2.5, and I bet the money line at minus 145. I think I got it at. This trend I don't like, though. Andy threw this one in there. Notre Dame 4-1 against the number as road dogs since 2018. Notre Dame not in this position often, and when they are, they're usually successful. So if you like Notre Dame, you definitely like the look of that. But me, I'm on the Aggies, man. I think this defensive line is a nightmare matchup for Riley Leonard making his first start at Notre Dame. I expect to see a lot of pressure, maybe a turnover or 2. And in my opinion, I only need Connor Weigert to make 1 or 2 plays to win this game. So I'm on the Aggies. Texas A&M money line and minus 2.5. It's at 3 now. I'd still play it at 3. Obviously, I like it better at the 2.5 though. Live show, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to be live for 2 hours straight. We're going through every single FBS game on the board. I think we got 27 lined up. So we'll be live at 10 a.m. Eastern time. going through one at a time all the way up to kickoff. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. We're doing the community parlay, everything. The Saturday morning college football shows are usually pretty fun. So if you're able to make it, we'd love to see you. If you want to see all the bets that I personally have open, head over to KyleKirms.com and click on Open Bets. If you sign up for Sauce Network Plus, you get access to it. Shows you every single bet that I currently have open right now. Also, you can see every bet the whole staff has open. And around 2 a.m. Eastern time, I'll post the final write-up like I did last year. Some of you might remember. It'll have my top 7 picks against the spread for that Saturday. Underdog of the day, parlay of the day, just stuff like gimmicky stuff like that. People like that stuff. So I'll post that around 2 a.m. Eastern time. Hope to see you on the live show. Let's remember to bet responsibly. Talk to you in the Discord.